Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Speaker Brains with the most unprofessional music critics on the internet, Travis, Zach, and Josh.
What up, everybody?
Hello and welcome back to a very special Speaker Brains.
Very special.
This is not the closest. I think the Lana Del Rey was the closest we've ever done one to like right on the nose of when the album came out.
Oh yeah.
But like I kind of like this better because it's about we're about a month late out from the album now.
Yeah.
And we didn't say a whole lot about that newest Lana Del Rey album in that Speaker Brains.
Yeah, it gives us enough time to really listen to the album and have something to say.
Exactly. But today we're doing Fleet Foxes.
Motherfucking Fleet Foxes. This fucking band, I think, is highly, highly underrated. A lot of people
I can agree with that. Like, they get good reviews at least. Like, you know.
Yeah, but I never hear anyone talking about them.
Like, it's not like they're one of those bands where like people pan their albums.
Yeah.
I think it was the worst I've seen was either Stereo Gum or the AV Club gave Crack Up, and we'll talk about this when we get to Crack Up, gave Crack Up like a C-.
God damn.
And wrote like this really whiny review that, again, I'll talk about when we get to the album because I thought it was kind of funny at the time.
And oddly enough, like, this is a band that, like, people love but never get talked about. But funny enough, their former drummer, Josh Tillman, became massively popular.
Yeah.
And for good reason too. The guy's fucking. I love the shit out of that guy.
Yeah, he's definitely got talent. You know, I know he's with a lot of people. I know he's a love him or hate him figure.
Yeah, a lot of people I can see not really liking the cynicism and all that.
Yeah, you know, I get you, and like I myself, it's like there are albums where I can take it from him. There are albums where like it's a little too much, you know. But yeah, Fleet Foxes.
How did you?
I guess I could say they were in as much as like I really put these guys on a pedestal.
Yeah.
You know, I would say they are underrated. But they're, like I said, they have a respectable following. They have a respectable level of acclaim. Even if they are a little underrated, it's a level of following where at least it's like people like them. You know.
Yeah.
It's not like, I don't know, like Disco Inferno or something like that, where they never really found a following at all, and none of the members are even doing music anymore because they had to go and get real jobs.
So how did you get into Fleet Foxes? You know,
it's as with a lot of bands around this era. There are sort of two stories, and you'll find this for a lot of bands from this era of the late 2000s and the early 2010s. You and I have jokingly called this the hipster era before.
Yeah.
Of that kind of indie rock that was popular about 10, 12 years ago. I'm almost certain I heard something from the first album at the time. Like, I don't know what it was. It was probably White Winter Hymnal, because that was the one that's the track from the first album that really seemed to get a push. But I'm fairly certain I did hear something from the first album, because Years later, in about 2017 or 2018, after Crack Up came out, I checked out the band and thought, some of this sounds familiar. But I didn't buy anything of theirs until like early 2018, when I found the debut at one of the used record stores I frequent and bought it blind, not really knowing much about it at all, aside from that the album cover looked really cool. And pretty much, the story goes, it goes on from there. I bought Helplessness Blues and Crack Up later on that year, when one of the other stores I went to was having a massive, 40% off sale. So I got both of those albums for, slightly over $10.
Sweet.
And then I ordered the Sun Giant EP later on that same year. That's about it. I've been a huge fan ever since.
Yeah, my story is very similar, but it was 2008, I believe, or it might have been early 2009. I used to go to the Barnes & Noble a lot and buy random ass albums, and I would always see that first Fleet Foxes album there, and the album cover was cool, and I'm not the biggest blind buyer because I've always been fucked over. And, I get fucked over a good 90% of the time when it comes to blind buys. And so I was like, yeah, man, and I would go there every other weekend and I would see it and I'd be like, man, this shit looks cool. But fuck, and this was when Barnes & Noble, man, they have always been stupid expensive as far as CDs go.
Barnes & Noble is one of those places there, and I've joked about this before. There are CD places that never got the memo that the recession happened and also piracy happened, and you can't charge people $17, $18 for a CD and for a brand new CD anymore.
Yeah, seriously, fucking A. So one day I finally had bought it, and this was a time in my life when I was heavily into the Mars Volta and really expanding my listening range a lot more. And this took me a couple times to really get into. But when I put it in, I was like, damn, this is some pretty good shit. But I didn't really know what to make of it. And but then I would just start getting, I was heavily smoking weed all the time, and this album is a masterpiece when you're high as fuck.
I've never listened to Fleet Foxes side. There's a small group of bands I've listened to high. I've listened to Yes high.
Yeah.
I've listened to some King Crimson high. Maybe a little bit of Peter Gabriel, mostly prog bands. I can imagine, especially the first Fleet Foxes would sound really good.
Yeah, it's just so it complements the high, and the weed complements the album. It's like when you have that perfect wine to the perfect steak.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is one of those perfect get high albums. Because it's so chill, it fucking just matches what you're kind of feeling. So I got high as fuck, and I would sit there and listen to this album, and it became one of my favorite albums that year. And I've been a fan ever since. You're lucky you got into them late in the game, to where you didn't have to wait too long for some shit. My God.
It's like Gorillaz.
Yeah.
It's like Gorillaz, where it's like, by the time I was into them, all of them were coming out. Because I remember watching, back when I had first discovered your channel, way back in the day. I remember watching was it that first 13 Badass Albums one you did back when that video was still up. I think you would put Helplessness Blues as like number 1 or number 2 for 2011.
Yeah, I think it was around 5 or 4, because I think the top 3, I believe, was Hank 3 and Primus and Tom Waits. So this might have been Helplessness Blues might have been around number 4.
But it was up respectively high.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the best albums that I had heard that year. In fact, that was at a point where on this channel, and I would do those, there was a lot of stuff that I just wasn't listening to, so I was like, fuck, what came out this year that would make me seem like I had some credibility as a music fan? Delph put something out? Okay, let me put that on there. Oh, The Roots? Okay, that'll give me some that'll give me some clout.
Put something out?
Yeah, seriously. Oh my god.
But hey, man, those videos served their purpose.
Yeah, they damn sure did. What do you think? Well, I guess, we should really talk about Sun Giant first.
Yeah, Sun Giant is, it's...
Because I haven't heard...
it exists.
I haven't heard the Fleet Foxes EP, but that's a rarity anyway.
You can get it now
with that box set.
If you're willing to shill out the money for that big early years box set they released.
Which I'm interested in. I mean, you can get it on...
years ago.
You can get it on Amazon for about $25.
Damn, I didn't know that. I knew it was more expensive back when I was looking at it.
But what were you saying about Sun Giant?
I don't forget it exists, but I'm never saying to myself, "Oh man, I need to listen to Sun Giant."
Yeah, seriously. What's so funny is when I bought Sun Giant, it was after I had bought the first album, and I had some Best Buy bucks. You remember when you bought enough shit at Best Buy and they send you these cheap plastic pieces of paper that's $5, $10. Man, we used to kill that shit. And I had some Best Buy bucks, and I just went to damn Best Buy one day, and there it was. And I was like, okay, well, let me check this out. It was like $5. And I liked it a lot. In fact, I wound up playing this a lot more than the first album.
Really?
Yeah, for a while there. Yeah, I was killing this.
I mean, I feel that too, because it's one where it's I don't forget that I like it, but when I put it, I think of it and I'm like, yeah, it's good. It's kind of like a companion to the first album. Then when I put it on, I really like it.
Yeah. Nowadays, I don't jam it as much as the other ones, but when I first got it, I was killing it.
I actually, weirdly, I own every Fleet Foxes album that I own. I have on multiple formats.
Oh yeah.
But with this one, I bought the CD, and then a while back, I decided I was going to have every Fleet Foxes album on vinyl, which I do now, except for the new one, which isn't out physically yet.
Fucking COVID lame ass shit.
Yes. And then when I bought the first Fleet Foxes album on vinyl, I was like, why is there 2 discs? This album is 40 minutes long. And the Sun Giant EP is a second disc on the vinyl of the first Fleet Foxes.
Oh, that's rad.
Or at least the version that I have.
That's rad.
I will say Sun Giant inaugurates their tradition of really cool cover art.
Yeah, which sadly kind of wanes.
Yeah, it kind of does, they start out really, really cool, and then the cover art, I don't. You know, we've both said things about Krakow, and then with the new one, I was I wasn't expecting just a photograph, you know. But yeah, but this one has a lot of tracks I really like. Like I like English House. That has a really cool acoustic guitar thing happening. I like Mykonos. I'm guessing that's how you say that.
Mykonos, yeah, I figure. Drops in the River is one of my favorites on here.
Yeah.
Like this, the thing that got me absolutely loving this band is when I was high as shit and I was jamming this stuff, their harmonies and his vocals alone are just some of the best sounding vocals sonically that I've ever heard in my life. Like as far as recorded on CD.
What I always loved about these guys is that and this is not the best analogy, but it's almost like the Beach, like Pet Sounds Beach Boys meets like the band.
Yeah, I totally get that. Or some like CSN, like Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this pristine Baroque pop, like in the middle of the deep, dark forest.
Yeah. You imagine animals playing the instruments with them. Like they are one with
like
the forest.
you got a bear on the bass.
Like a fucking, it sounds so 70s and late 60s, but there's a modernness to it that, I don't know, man. There's no other band that sounds like this, and other bands that I heard try to sound like this, they're good and I like them okay, but this is the kind of band that those bands wish they were. Like when I hear some of that early Mumford & Sons, I'm like, yeah, you guys want to be Fleet Foxes or Magnetic Zeros, Edward Sharp. That shit. I was like, this is good, but it's not Fleet Foxes.
I know Zach was really into Mumford & Sons for a while.
Oh, until they went electric. Till they plugged in their instruments. That shit is bad.
They suck.
Because I do really enjoy those first two Mumford albums. And even that little African EP they did. But the last album they did and that third one, man, just not good.
Yeah, it's like there was in the beginning, like you could easily call them like coattail riders.
Oh
but,
yeah,
like riding people like Grizzly Bear and Fleet Foxes.
Yeah,
but those first couple albums there's some stuff to like, you know.
Like the Dead South is another band that the Mumford & Sons wish they could be.
I would say between like Grizzly Bear and Fleet Foxes, I would say like 90% of like those kind of bands are trying to be one or both.
Yeah.
Because Grizzly Bear always...
Grizzly Bear I've never heard enough of. I always, for some reason, get them mixed up with Arctic Monkeys.
That's a pretty big mix-up.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I guess it's just that they were both in the Spin magazines all the time when I was getting them.
Yeah, maybe. You know, Grizzly Bear were always a little, to me, and of course I haven't heard every Grizzly Bear album. I've only heard the big popular ones from the late 2000s and the early to mid 2010s. Their drummer's actually on the new Fleet Foxes.
Oh, rad.
Grizzly Bear to me were always a little more psychedelic rock.
Yeah.
And Fleet Foxes were more like Baroque pop. At least on this first album, like Vectimist definitely has like a heavy psychedelic rock thing going throughout it. And that's another one. It's like that. It's like we talked about a while back with Vampire Weekend, like when I bought Vectimus, there was at least one track where I was like, oh my god, I heard this in a Lexus commercial 10 years ago.
So,
yeah.
Sun Giant, decent ass little EP, if you can get your hands on it.
Which you should be able to. It's pretty cheap, or at least it was when I got my hands on it.
Yeah, it's pretty cheap, and it's not like a rarity or anything. I mean, copies are pretty abundant.
Yeah. So what do you rate Sun Giant?
So with EPs, I always do 1 through 5 since it's like a half album, and to me, I'd say a 4. It's just a good ass standard size EP, about 18 minutes. Real quick to listen to. None of the songs outweigh or outstay their welcome. And gives you especially back when all you could get was this and the first album. Definitely worth getting, just for some more Fleet Foxes.
Yeah, definitely. Like it especially when it was like, because I believe this came out before the first album did.
Yeah.
And obviously none of us were following them that far back. But like, I'm sure at the time it was a nice little introduction to the band. It's also kind of interesting now because in a way, this album points to the first, or this EP, it points to the first album, but it points even beyond the first album.
Yeah.
Because it's got some of that spaciness that they would bring in on Helplessness Blues and Crack Up as well.
Yeah.
So I would rate this a 4 out of 5 as well as an EP.
And weirdly enough, is like, even though back when I was first getting into this band, this and the first album was the only thing out there, nowadays I would say, maybe get this one last, or if you see it, real cheap. Yeah. Because there's much more to be had on stuff like The Crack Up and Helplessness Blues. But yeah. Next, released a couple months later on June 3rd, 2008. God, that was ages ago, dude.
Yeah, it was.
12 fucking years ago, man.
I was thinking about that yesterday when I was listening to all the Fleet Foxes. I was like, man, 2008 was a long time ago.
Dude, I was 22 when this shit dropped. I've been 30 for 4 years now. And and fuck, that was a long time ago. But yeah, first one that I got, I had to get high as fuck to really appreciate it. But nowadays, I mean, I haven't smoked any weed since 2013. So,
damn.
Yeah, dude, I've been missing it too.
That's like the better part of a decade.
Dude, seriously, like, fuck. And then Stas, man, Stas and Zach and everybody I know still fucking hits it and all that, but,
Yeah.
What can I do? But this album, I love the flow of these tracks. When it starts off with those nice little harmonies, I don't even know what he's saying. It sounds like he's saying
Red squirrel in the morning, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm coming to take you home.
Then you have that acoustic guitar.
Yeah, man, so fucking lush. Like, the moment I first heard this album, back when I bought it, I was like, I was still heavily into industrial stuff and Mars Volta, and I had just got that first Frank Zappa that I'd ever got, that Weasels.
Weasels Rip My Flat Fresh.
And fucking... This was such a... That was also a time I was killing Nightwish, and so this right here really shook my musical shit.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I was in a whole different place by the time I was picking this up, like this, I picked this up around the time I started to, this is almost 10 years after the fact, around the time I started to take a look back, because like I've talked about this before, I was pretty dismissive of most of the new music of this time at the time. And this was right around the time I was like, hey, maybe I was a bit of a pretentious dick 10 years ago, and maybe I should actually hear some of this stuff I was putting down. Not that I was putting down Fleet Foxes, but I did put down Vampire Weekend 10 years ago.
I'm sure a lot of people did.
Oh, yeah. Well, they were super easy to at the time. But yeah, I will say the whole album flows together really well, but especially the first half.
Yeah.
Especially the first half. Everything. Let me see the flow. Everything from Sun It Rises to He Doesn't Know Why flows together really, really well. The second half, I like it a lot too, but it doesn't have quite that same flow.
Yeah, there's like a secret. Oh shit! I just kicked the camera. There's like a secret. There's like a synchronicity to the that first half, because I know exactly what you're talking about, and I think it has something to do with the last half of the album feels slightly more experimental than the first half. Where like the first half, it sounds experimental mostly because it's music nobody fucks with, just straight up fucking folk, kind of medievally, kind of Renaissance-y folk music, and it's not being used as a gimmick. They're playing it straight. Because there's a lot of times when somebody does like Renaissance style music, it's always a straight up gimmick, like Blackmore's Night, stuff that like Enya or Lorena McKinnon, all that kind of shit. But Fleet Foxes are mixing that old timey kind of folk music with a slight modern rock pop music vibe, and they're playing it straight and taking it serious. And I don't know, the second half does that too, but it also maybe tries to get a little more weirder, whereas when we get to the second one, all that kind of shit is more dispersed throughout the album.
What I love about Fleet Fox's debut, and what's interesting about Fleet Fox's debut, is that you're absolutely right. It does and this is sort of going to be a constant throughout their discography, it does all of this really interesting stuff, taking in, music that's, I don't know anybody else who's done a combination like this of like Baroque pop, straight out of the 60s playbook, melded together with folk and to a slight extent roots music.
Yeah.
Because what's interesting about Fleet Foxes is that it's folksy without ever being bluesy.
Yeah, exactly. Like it touches more on the classical themes and approaches as opposed to blues chords.
Like it's even though, obviously you can hear American folk, this is American music, it's almost like it's more European folk.
Yes.
Than American folk, because there is less of that bluesiness, which, of course, the blues is incredible music and it has its place in a lot of many, many wonderful things, but there are kinds of music that bluesiness doesn't play well into, and I would argue Baroque pop is one of them.
Yeah.
But also, what's fascinating to me about this album, and you'll see this on Helplessness Blues too, and then it drops completely off. is that it's fascinating because it's this music that, like you said, it feels like it could have come out of the 60s or the 70s. It feels like it's out of time, but the production is very 2008.
It's
but in a good way.
It's very reverby and but I think that helps. It makes him sound like he's in a hall in an old castle or something. But another thing I love about this album, and they kind of kept up with it up until I'd say this newer album. Maybe there's a little bit of it on Crack Up. There's a tiny little bit of it on all of the albums, but definitely on the new one. This and at least the second album, it's not drums. The drums are mostly just tribal, kind of just one with nature, just fucking beats, man. Just fucking, they're not rock drums. They're just percussion. They're fucking boom, boom, boom. Just fucking, no straight beats or anything, man. Just really cool, like, drum hits and shit.
Yeah, the new album definitely, that's, we'll get to it when we get to it, but a lot of people have been talking about one of the big differences with the new album is that they do have some straight drumming, and they've never really had that before.
Yeah, and that's the thing I really appreciated about these, because it matches the style of folk music, that they're going for. Now there's definitely some more traditional drum kind of stuff, especially on this with the one was like, come down to the mountain, na na na, and you got that.
Oh, Ragged Wood.
Yeah, Ragged Wood, and you got that more kind of snare thing going on, but it's still minimalist as all fuck.
Yeah, and you get some of that on Quiet Houses too.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's, Quiet Houses and Ragged Wood both have that kind of, that more, it's not a rock beat, but it's a more propulsive beat than you're hearing on most of the other stuff on here.
But definitely favorite tracks on here, the ones that I always remember is like Sun It Rises, White Winter Hymnal, Ragwood, Tiger Mountain, Peasant Song. And then there's the Meadowlarks, Blue Ridge Mountains, and Oliver James. Oliver James is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can agree with all those. I would say Ragged Wood, Quiet Houses, Tiger Mountain Peasant Song, which it's one of those things, all these years I've been reading it as Tiger Mountain Pleasant Song.
Yeah.
When there's no L there, and I don't know why.
That shit happens to me all the time. Like, in fact, speaking of which, when I did that 13 favorite albums of 2011, I think I put that Battles album, Gloss Drop, on there. I had to re-record everything about it, because I called it Glass Drop throughout the whole little recording and all that, and it wasn't until we started editing it, and I was like, wait a minute, this shit right here says Gloss Drop. Why the fuck have I been calling this Glass Drop?
My favorite is definitely when you did that in the Marilyn Manson video, and you just put in a subtitle that said something like "Travis is an idiot." The song is actually called this.
Oh yeah, dude, and yeah, it didn't help that I constantly say it over and over. I was like, "Fuck this! I'm not re-recording all this shit."
Yeah.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
My favorites, like I said, Tiger Mountain Peasant Song, Quiet Houses, Blue Ridge Mountains, definitely, and then, Oliver James. Yeah, Oliver James is an interesting way to close out the album.
Yeah.
Because this is a band, and they've kind of returned to this in the last album. Because, Helplessness Blues and Crack Up both have really, big finishes.
Yeah.
In really different ways. But what I love about this album is there's a couple of tracks, and these are just the ones I remember, that do this thing where just about 2/3 of the way through the track, you get a change. And the song ends on something different from the way it started. Like, Quiet Houses does that. When it starts to end and you start to get that dun 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 dun, and then Blue Ridge Mountains does it too, where you suddenly get that a little more intense vocal bits as opposed to what you've heard for the majority of the song.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it's like they do that a lot on Helplessness Blues, and on Crack Up they do it in almost every song.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
sometimes more than once.
Yeah, and shit, running into almost 9 minutes.
Yeah. And definitely this to me, I would argue this first album has my favorite cover art of theirs. It's maybe cheating just a bit because it is I think it's a Dutch painting from the 14 or 1300s.
Yeah, I love the guy's ass hanging out the window.
Or the weird robed forest dude under the pavilion who looks like he's getting a blowjob.
Yeah, dude, like, that's a thing I love about old fucking, like, medieval kind of paintings and shit, is because the shit is like, they're just drawing what they know, man. Like, there's a dude shitting out of a window, like, I mean, yeah. I can believe this. I can believe this is a real depiction of some random-ass village.
I was going to say, like, what this album reminds me of musically is, like, this album is like a little cabin in the woods. And then you go inside it, and it's actually huge, and you've actually stumbled upon the land of the fair folk. Now you're going to be stuck there for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I totally get that vibe. There's almost like, it almost sounds like something that the Brothers Grimm would be listening to.
Yeah, it does. It needs more murder, though.
Yeah, it needs more murder, but I could see them writing some fucked up stories and then going to listen to some luscious Fleet Foxes.
Yeah. So what do you rate this album, Travis?
Alright, it's weird. Me high as fuck, it's a 10 all the way. But nowadays, 12 years later, 11 years later, in fact, this is, here recently, getting ready for this podcast, is probably the first time I've listened to it all the way through since Helplessness Blues came out.
Damn!
Yeah, dude, and when,
That's almost 10 years.
Yeah, and when Crack Up came out, I listened to some of it. And, I mean, now I'm going to give it a 9. Just because it's pretty damn flawless. It's just, I kind of lose a little interest when I get around the Protector and stuff. But then I come back when, you know, Oliver James and Blue Ridge Mountain is happening. But it's still one that, when I want to hear Fleet Foxes, it's not the first one I'm putting on.
Yeah, I say that, but, like, I'm the exact same way. Like, it wasn't 10 years, or almost 10 years, but, like, when I got Helplessness Blues and Crack Up, I didn't listen to this one for a while.
Yeah.
Like, I really did not listen to this one for, like, a good 6 months after I bought those two albums. And I'm going to agree with your rating. I'm going to give it a 9 too. It's an album that it's definitely the one you should probably listen to first.
Yeah.
If you're new to the band.
Yeah.
And I know, I was looking at their around the time the new album came out, I was looking at their subreddit. This is a lot of people's favorite album to this day.
And I can get that, because the thing is another reason I like this band so much is they're pretty unpredictable, and even though the first album has a lot of unpredictable moments, after all the subsequent albums, this one, it is more predictable and very much more accessible than what's to come next.
Yeah, because like this, as unique as this is, it's like we've kind of been saying, like this is definitely like you if you were wanted to be dismissive, which we are of course not, you could look at this as, oh, it's another 2008 indie hipster album to sit up with my Vampire Weekend and I don't know, TV on the Radio albums, even though TV on the Radio and Vampire Weekend are both pretty unique and they're bad examples for me to be using.
But I would say still to this day, out of the barrage of bands that got more popular than Fleet Foxes around the time, like Fleet Foxes is still, especially this first album, is still probably the most unique out of all of it.
Well, they're definitely my favorites out of that whole scene. Like, Vampire Weekend, particularly those first three, are right up there too. But like Fleet Foxes are definitely, out of all those bands, I would say Fleet Foxes and early St. Vincent are probably like the bands and artists I would keep out of that whole scene. But yeah, so I rate this a 9. It's a phenomenal album. It's a good introduction to the band if you're looking for a place to start.
Yeah.
It's a really good introduction to the band. You get to hear, not all, but most of what they do well within a fairly short, user-friendly package.
Yeah, definitely. And there's not a single bad song on it.
No, not at all.
I mean, I might get bored with a song or two, but that's not me getting bored with 2 songs or so on an album. That's hardly saying anything's bad.
Exactly. Especially if you're like, well, I know I'm this way, where you get bored easily.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the first of the waits, 2008 to 2011.
Yeah, and this is a standard wait.
Yeah, especially for this era.
But I remember when Helplessness Blues was coming out, I was massively hyped because Robin Pecknold, I guess that's how you say his name.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. He was hyping this album up in a way that I thought was real interesting. He was saying things like he wanted it to sound like Stormcock. I forget who the fuck that artist is, but he was wanting it to sound like the album Stormcock by Roy Harper.
Oh.
And yeah. And then he was saying he wanted it to be less upbeat, less poppy, and more groove-based. And he was even saying he wanted to record it all in one take. And if there are vocal fuck-ups, leave them in. And I was like, wow, for your second album to just kind of go in with this I don't give a fuck attitude based on the first album that sounds so perfect sonically. I thought that was interesting. And man, it took a minute, dude, for this album when it finally came, dude. It was up there with one of my most anticipated albums of 2011. And I bought it on release day, and holy shit, I was not disappointed. It surpassed every expectation. Even though I can tell that, yeah, this isn't what you were originally going for. I don't hear any vocal fuck-ups or sloppy playing or anything. It sounds...
Roy Harper.
Right? It sounds just as perfect as the first album.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. Like, it's definitely not... It definitely does not sound anything like that.
Yeah, you know? But man, from the moment I turned this album on, shit blew me away, man. This album, all the way through, fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, this one is interesting because for some reason this one took a while to grow on me. Like, the first one to an extent did as well. You know, where the first one, like, I sat on it for like a couple months before I was like, okay, yeah, this is great. I need to buy the rest of this band stuff. But this one in particular, I would keep, you know, it's one where I would keep plugging away at it because I was like, there was something here. But for a while, the whole was less than the sum of its part for me. It's not anymore. But, like, this is, weirdly enough, when you look at the fact that Crack Up is way more difficult than this, this was the one that it took me a little bit to get into.
This one has my favorite album cover. Even though I love that medieval village, this one, I just love. When I got this, I was getting high as fuck and listening to this, and this is one of those great get high albums and one of those great get high album covers, man. I was just staring at this thing, and it looks like what it looks. Looking at this album cover, you almost feel like you just had a stroke because you don't know what the fuck any of this shit is.
Yeah, it's like there's disembodied eyes and faces. There's somebody screaming. There's what looks like a 1920s depiction of a man. You know.
Yeah.
Weird geometric houses and crystals and like planets in alignment and like this really is like one of the great, like, it's like you said about the, you know, it feels like this could come out in the 70s. Like, this feels like a throwback to those great, like, get high album covers of the 70s.
Yeah, man.
Where you would just, I'm convinced the idea was that you would, while you were lighting up and while you were getting toasted, you would look at the album cover and be like, whoa, man, what does this mean?
Man, this album cover is exactly what the album sounds like, man. The album sounds like this album cover, man. If this album cover had a sound, it would sound like this album.
And that's a true statement. Like, this album looks like how it sounds.
Yeah, and what's great, what I love about this album is they keep all the stuff that I loved about the first one, the great vocals, the folk, that style of European folk, and the more percussive beats, and just everything I love about that first one. And then it's not afraid to get a little weird here and there. I mean, that moment at the end of The Shrine, an argument, that little two-part track toward the end, when it's just weird fucking trumpet noise or whatever the fuck.
when it is straight up doing like it's almost like Captain Beefheart moment.
Yeah, like fucking.
Where, like, suddenly you get this weird moment where like there's these stringed instruments doing their thing. You have this really strange, like almost Indian sounding guitar or stringed progression, if I can finish my sentence. And then you just have this saxophone just free jazzing for like half a minute. It's wild. Still there, man?
Yeah. Fucking, it's crazy because for all intents and purposes, that moment should not fucking fit.
No, it really shouldn't.
But it comes out of nowhere, but fucking it feels like it belongs there. It is crazy.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's even with even in that song before, like that moment where it's I think it's the second repetition of the sunlight over me no matter what I do, apples in the summer are cold bit.
Yeah.
Where it sounds like he is shredding his voice with that take.
Yeah.
And that, so it's like, and then, you know, the Helplessness Blues title track is amazing too. Like, this is where Fleet Fox's lyrics start to get like a little more philosophical.
Yeah, definitely. Like talking about when he was younger, he thought he was a snowflake and he was so unique, and then when he got older, he's just another cog in the machine.
Serving something beyond me.
Yeah. And fucking... But that is such a... It's philosophical, but at the same time, it's like, you're not the first guy to say any of this.
And it's simple, unlike Crack Up, where Crack Up is like, what are you even talking about, man?
Yeah.
With its philosophy, where like you have to do research to understand what Crack Up is about.
Yeah, no problem there, because I do like the fact that it's simple, and then, you know, the way he sings it, there's a bit of power to it. But you're right, man. Crack Up gets very cryptic.
Yes, and it's like I said, you know, you have to do some research to kind of know what it's about.
Oh my god!
Like, whereas this one, like, is relatively straightforward. Like, but this, I also love how this is where like they start to use like more surreal. Like, there is surreal imagery in the lyrics of the first album. But, like, on Battery Kinsey, with that opening lyric of, I woke up one morning, all my fingers rotting. You know?
Yeah, this, the album starts off phenomenal and stays phenomenal. Like, I don't lose a bit of attention.
No.
And Simsalabim, I'm like, when I first saw the track title, and I'm like, is he singing about Johnny Quest?
Ah!
Yo, Haji, Simsalabim. But, yeah. Fucking Battery Kinsey, The Plains and Bitter Dancer, fuck the Cascades, fucking A, the Cascades, man.
Oh yeah.
And Lorelei, you know, I don't know why you're gonna name a song Lorelei, because whenever I see a song called Lorelei, I just think of Lorelei Gilmore.
Huh.
You know? major
Yeah.
Gilmore Girls fan.
Yeah, I like that, like Montezuma and like even even like Bitter Dancer and the Plains are like meditations on death. Like Montezuma is definitely that.
Yeah.
And like you could argue about what the Plains is supposed to be about, but like the most common interpretation I've seen is that it's a metaphor for the inevitability of death.
And then Grown Ocean and Blue Spot. This is just a great fucking album. And oddly enough, this is the only one that Josh Tillman is on.
Yeah, it's like. Well, actually, let me say what I'm going to say about those last two tracks, and then we'll talk about Josh Tillman. Not a good day for me pronouncing words correctly.
Josh Tillman.
Tillion. What hit me last night when I was listening to this album again is that it almost like Crack Up and this almost have the same flow in the last two tracks, where you get like a quiet acoustic track like what is it, Blue Spotted Tail here, and I Should See Memphis on Crack Up.
Yeah.
And then you get Grown Ocean and the title track to Crack Up, which are big and epic in two very different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Josh Tillman, it's interesting because, like, Josh Tillman apparently released a bunch of albums before he did Father John Misty under his own name.
Yeah, that I've never heard a single one.
I've never heard any of them. And then he got with the Fleet Foxes for just one album. And then he left, I think, after the tour. Like, they toured this album, and then at the end of the tour, Josh Tillman left to do Father John Misty. And, like, I've heard it said over the years that, like, there was maybe some drama.
I'm not gonna lie, there's something about Josh Tillman that, like, I kind of look at the dude and I'm like, he kind of looks like a guy that might be a little hard to get along with.
Yeah, I get that feeling too. Like, it's been, like, nobody's really said anything.
Yeah, he could be the nicest fucking dude, but I don't know, I'll look at him, I'll be like, man, like...
He gives off a vibe, you know?
Yeah, it gives off a vibe. I mean, definitely he talks major shit about a lot of people and a lot of stuff, and so maybe it's just that cynicism, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's like maybe you're not that fun of a guy, but I like your fucking music.
Like like I said, I don't know that anything has ever actually been said about it, but like I've heard whisperings over the years that like it wasn't a completely friendly departure. But like I said, nobody's really. I don't think Father John Misty's really said anything about it. And I don't think Robin's really ever said anything about it.
Yeah, which is probably better that way.
Oh yeah. Like it probably is. Like it could be as simple as he wasn't vibing right with the band.
Yeah.
Or, you know, he wanted to contribute material, and Fleet Foxes has pretty much always been Robin.
Yeah.
It's, you know, Fleet Foxes is, and a lot of people didn't know this, actually, because the Fleet Foxes are barely on the new album. And it's pretty much just Robin and studio musicians. Which I'm assuming is mostly because of COVID.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how it's always been. Like, he's the main songwriter, he's the lead singer, you know?
Yeah. It just always kind of seems like he gets who he needs. I mean, if you look at the list of musicians that work on this new Fleet Foxes album, Jesus Christ, this is a long list.
Yes, it is.
And when you go to, there are 6 main contributors to the album we're talking about right now. And then when you get to the new one, Jesus God.
Yeah. But yeah, Helplessness Blues to me is like, this is, I don't remember, like when I did my best of 2011 list for a series that I seriously need to finish, I don't remember, I think this might have been number one, but it is top 5 material for 2011 for me, definitely. Like this is one of the best albums to come out of that whole scene that was happening at the time. And it's interesting because, like, it still, like we were saying, it still has that production sound.
Yeah, but to me, it works for the style of music so much better than the likes of, like, Magnetic Zeros and stuff.
See, I've never even heard them.
I guarantee you've heard a song or two.
I probably have.
They got real popular with that song that was, I think it was called Home. It's like Alabama, Arkansas, something about my ma and pa. It's like home, no, home. Like,
so many of those bands came and went.
They damn sure did, dude.
Like, even Grizzly Bear, for as established as they are, as respected as they are, like, their only big song I've heard out in the wild is like track 2 on Vectimist. I forget what the name of it is, but okay, yeah, I've pulled it up on YouTube, and I'm like, yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that.
What's that?
I definitely heard this in a commercial in, like, 2010.
Oh, are you talking about Magnetic Zeros?
Yes.
Yeah.
This was definitely trying to sell me, like, cell phones in, like, 2011. Like, there's no doubt about that. But yeah, how do you rate Helplessness Blues?
Straight up 10 all the way, man. Fucking, it's still to this day like the first one I'll turn on.
Wow.
Yeah, like even though like I absolutely love Crack Up, and I really do like the new one a lot. But this is the one, man, like fucking that I straight up, this one to me had the bigger impact because it was everything I ever want out of a second album. If I absolutely love the first one, this one, it does everything that I expected and didn't know I wanted. Like, this is that Demon Days effect where it's like the perfect second fucking album, and everything after is just bonus, really. I mean,
yeah,
fucking shit. like I said, this took everything I loved about the first one, wasn't afraid to get a little weird, and like we were saying, like the first half of that first album flows real well, then the second half kind of tries to experiment a little more, but this one, there's experimentation dispersed throughout the whole album. As opposed to lumping it all in one spot. And,
definitely.
And fucking, man, just perfect all the way through. Love the shit out of this album. Especially High. Kids, if you're listening, listen to this album High.
Smoke marijuana.
Yes. It's good for you.
And it's legal in Massachusetts.
Stony Bear says, smoke weed, kids.
Just remember to deal with the roach responsibly.
Yeah. Either swallow it, save it for later. Don't throw it away. There's good weed in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 10 as well. No doubt. Like the spoilers, like, is pretty much gonna be 10s from me from here on out.
Yeah, I mean,
like maybe if we talk about it enough, you might get me to talk down the new one from a 10 to a 9.5. But like, Crack Up is getting a 10.
Yeah, and for different sense too, though. Like, that's the thing.
Oh,
is,
yeah.
This is just one of those perfect-ass sophomore albums. And the other ones are perfect-ass albums in different ways.
Yeah, like Helplessness Blues is like the ultimate manifestation of the Fleet Foxes sound.
Yeah. Like they doubled down. It's like they knew what worked.
Yeah.
And stuck with that.
Exactly. Like it's everything that was good about the first album perfected, pretty much.
Definitely. And not a lot of bands do that. Not a lot of bands do that.
You know, a lot of bands, and like especially in that indie scene Fleet Foxes were a part of. Like, and yeah, like we maybe shouldn't be lumping all these bands together, but they kind of were lumped together at the time. It was really, really common for bands in that scene to release sophomore albums that were basically like just the debut again.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, when this was coming out, this was when we were having that paradigm shift where the mainstream didn't know what it was gonna be yet. So there was a little bit of everything kind of getting popular there for a minute, and until ultimately it decided to just focus on EDM for a couple years, like always.
Like the indie dudes were kind of holding the line as far as the underground music went, but like by the same token, like that like new wave of like hip hop was like waiting on the wings to like take over from them. Like,
yeah, because this was when like club hip hop, like Black Eyed Peas was about to be walking out the door, and people weren't sure what the next big thing was going to be, because then you had stuff like Fun get real big, and then they just straight up, they pretty much, they say they're not broke up, but they're fucking broke up.
Yeah, like they're done.
And it sucks, because that album is really good.
And it was like, yeah, you know, I've said it many times, and I'm not a big fan of the lead singles, but like the album itself has some great stuff, like especially like when they're trying to be Queen.
Yeah, like fuck.
Yeah, but like this was like right around the time that like I said, the indie was holding the line, and like semi-underground hip-hop dudes were waiting to take over, like Tyler the Creator, and like dudes like Earl Sweatshirt and Danny Brown were starting to pick up steam, and they were that stuff, like that, like weirder, slightly less accessible hip-hop kind of took over from this kind of stuff in the second half of the 2010s. Like,
damn sure did.
Like your Death Grips too, like absolutely your Death Grips. How could I forget them? And like Run the Jewels were coming out around this time too. Like, even though both of them had been around for years. But yeah, like, and then we didn't get a new album for 6 years.
Yeah, talk about a fucking wait, dude. If I tell you, my fucking, in between 2011 to 2017, my musical, if I was going through a musical renaissance in 2008, 2009, really expanding my shit further out, by the time Crack Up came out, I was listening to so much different shit that fucking, you know, I probably would have been like, oh, I don't want to hear this. My musical mood right now is something else. So I need to put this down because it's not grabbing me right now. But fuck, when it finally came out, dude, I I fucking killed Crack Up, man.
Yeah, like I remember at the time, like I didn't buy it for a while, but I listened to a little bit of it. I was like, damn, you really like this album. Like, wasn't it your number one for that year?
I can't remember, because that year there was also
Queens of the Stone Age.
yeah, Queens of the Stone Age, and Haken dropped The Affinity.
Humans, Pre-Disillusionment.
Damn, Humans came out that year too?
Yeah, Humans came out that year, and like you were, like we said on that Gorillaz podcast, like you were killing Humans at the time.
I damn sure was. And my copy of Song Machine's coming in today, so I still
mine was just delivered, but I haven't gone out to the mail to get it yet.
But already Zach and David have said they don't like it.
Damn.
I'm like, damn it, yo. But still looking forward to it, because I'm still a Gorillaz fanboy.
I really liked it, you know? Like, I thought it was way better, like, to make this a Gorillaz podcast for, like, 5 minutes. I thought it was way better than the last two.
Yeah, at least the
Like-
stuff I've heard, I've liked a lot more.
Like, some of the features are not, like they kind of waste St. Vincent. Like, she
Yeah.
doesn't do any of her, like, really amazing guitar shit, and she's basically just singing backup vocals for Damon Albarn. But it's, you know, it's fun that she's doing something with them.
Yeah, you know, the thing is,
The Beck shit, though, is, like, some of the best Beck shit I have heard in like, decades.
yeah, see, that's what I'm real hyped to hear is Beck's
Like-
thing. Because, dude, Zach told me that this most recent Beck album is garbage. And I think you said that, too.
I listened to it the first time, and I was like, this is all right. I listened to it again, and I was like, man, I don't like this very much. But then I gave it another listen about 2 weeks ago, and I was like, it's all right. But his 2017 album, weirdly, which everybody hated, I actually like. Like, it's kind of poppy, and it's a different thing for him to be doing. But Beck has always had that weird, goofy party animal side to him.
Yeah.
So, like, it works. But, like, the last Beck album I've heard that I thought was amazing all the way through was Gaillero and the... Well, no, that's not Modern Guilt. Modern Guilt. I always forget that one exists.
Yeah, and I like Modern Guilt a lot.
But I like Gaillero and the Information a little more than Modern Guilt, so...
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
a bigger
it's like-
fan of Beck when he's just silly. Like,
Yeah, and that's why I liked his 2017 album.
Like-
Because it's like he's doing goofy,
Mellow
crazy,
Gold,
funky pop
Odelay,
stuff.
Midnight Vultures, like that. Those are some of my favorite Beck albums.
Yeah, like it's like man, I don't really know what happened to Beck in the 2010s, but like he lost his way, and that, like I said, that Gorillaz with Beck is some of the best stuff I have heard Beck on in a really long time. But yeah, you know, and like you said, with, you know, between Crack Up and Helplessness Blues, the sound changed.
Yeah, and you know, not too drastic.
No.
There's a little more drums on here, but
not that much.
yeah, it's like they fit. He puts them where they're needed. It still doesn't necessarily sound like a rock band, and it's still. What I do appreciate is the slight electro noises here and there.
Yeah, there's definitely, like, they're buried deep in the mix.
Yeah.
And the mix is still very organic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they use a lot of instruments. Like, if you look on the booklet, the credits for this album go on forever.
Yeah, they do.
Robin Robin, is credited with vocals, classical guitar, dreadnought, electric guitar, 12-string acoustic, 12-string electric, Fender bass, piano, synthesizer, Baldwin electric harpsichord, prepared auto harp, marimba, Moog Minotaur, Hammond organ, mellotron, train loop, water loop.
Like, what the fuck is a train loop and a water loop?
Probably a recording of a train.
Right.
And a recording of water.
Korg drum machine.
Percussion, Verispeed, footsteps, door, Memory Man Deluxe, whatever that is.
Yeah, I just love that, dude. Footsteps, door.
Yeah.
What's so fucking funny to me is, I swear, in the first album, let me go grab this real quick. Okay. The first album. Let me just open this up here. Because god damn, that's a lot of shit. Like, why would you need to credit yourself with recording a door?
Probably because they thought it was funny.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, dude. That's what I'm wondering. Let me see. Trying to find this here.
What I love about this album, too, is, like, this album is, like, unashamedly pretentious. Like, this album, the liner notes to this album, the lyrics of this album have, like, faux stage directions. Like, on the very first track, I Am All That I Need, Aro Yoseko, Thumbprint Scar, like, that first solo bit has the bracket of Sixth Floor Alone, and then when the full band comes in after that intro bit, it's the band kicks the loner off the stage into the city.
Yeah.
And then when it goes into that third movement of what I guess is Thumbprint Scar, maybe, or maybe not, but that third movement of the track where it's or maybe even fourth, where it's the Are You Alone? I Don't Believe You. It's Exit Out of the City, Now Memory. Or if you need to keep time on me, has the bracket of January 20th, 2017. You know, it's just I love that kind of thing. I love stuff that is not afraid to be a little full of itself. And This album definitely has some of that.
This album, it's one of those albums where it's like, you can tell why it took 6 years to come out.
Yeah, like he apparently, like, and I can't blame him for this. It's what I would do. Apparently, like, Robin took advantage of the success of the first two albums to further his education.
Yeah, which, not a bad move at all.
No, and like I said, if I was to suddenly become, I don't know that they were incredibly successful, but they were successful. You know, if I were suddenly to do that, that's the sort of thing I would want to do too. I want to say he maybe even took some classes at, like, Harvard. No, it wasn't Harvard, but it was an Ivy League. Columbia University. he took some classes at Columbia University, and I think he maybe took some like literary theory classes. I kind of think he must have, because this album is drenched in that sort of thing. Because the name of the album, it had two names actually, which is interesting. Because this album, like you said, it had a long incubation process. And it's one where it's like, I'm kind of glad that they went with the title that they were originally going to go with, because the working title, I'm going to try to find it. The working title for the album, if I remember correctly, was, I can't even pronounce it. There's this book by, I think it was a Norwegian author.
Yeah.
That, like, there's a name in the book of a character, and it shows up in the last track, if I remember correctly. And originally, the album was going to be named after that, if I remember correctly. But it's probably for the better, because, like I said, I can't even pronounce it. And Crack Up wound up naming it after an F. Scott Fitzgerald essay collection about basically existential dread and the idea of holding two opposing ideas in the mind at the same time while still retaining the ability to function.
So I'm having trouble finding what I'm looking for. But I swear that in the liner notes of either the first, I thought it was the first, but now I'm thinking it's the second one. But I swear in the liner notes, somebody wrote that we all play a bunch of instruments on this album, and to list them all would be highly pretentious. And I thought that was cool. But now that, like, motherfuckers are crediting themselves to Door, I'm like, damn, well, didn't you say it would be too pretentious to list all of this shit? But I can't find it. So I'm almost wondering, is this a false memory? Which I will say...
Mandela effect.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I will say that I think is sorely missed is the fact that both the first and second album have these massive posters that are in the CD.
And this one doesn't have that.
Yeah. And the second one, it's a massive poster of the album cover. And the first one, it's a different work of art. And, it says Fleet Foxes on there. But yeah, Crack Up.
So I found out what I was talking about. The original working title for the album was, and I am going to attempt to pronounce this, Yahalij, or
what?
Something like that.
Oh my God.
Yahali. He sings it at the end of the Crack Up song. And it was named after a character in an 1890 Norwegian novel called Hunger by Knut Hamsun. But he changed it apparently because it turned out that Knut Hamsun was a Nazi later on. So, you don't want to be associating your album with that shit.
True that.
And apparently, at one point, according to this article I'm seeing which is on Consequence of Sound from from late 2016. At one point, either the white cover was going to be black, or the painting on the bottom half of the cover was going to be the full length of the cover.
Yeah, because, like, I remember when I had first got this album, I was like, wow, for a band who had two really great album covers, that is some underwhelming shit. Like, it's a nice, beautiful photo of the ocean and just rocks.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like I said, I've said this before on one of our other podcasts. I like this cover because I know what they were going for, at least. Like, they were going for that, like, Columbia Records in the 60s, like,
Yeah.
abstract painting on the cover art while we played Mahler's 10th Symphony.
Seriously.
And I do like that the booklet was, like, has, like, some weird, like, watercolor kind of imagery in it, too. But, like, yeah, I can... In isolation, it's a fine album cover, but, like, coming after the first and second albums, you know, it's like, I get it.
I found it. Keep going.
Oh no, I finished my thought. What did you find?
I found it. It's in the liner notes on Sun Giant. It says, "We all played many an instrument. An itemized and individualized list would be egotistical and tiresome." So, thanks for letting me know you played the door.
And I mean, I remember there was a big talk when this came out. I remember a lot of different people I knew saying, like, man, it starts exactly the way Helplessness Blues ends.
Yes, I was about to get into that. And even Robin himself, like, confirmed it.
Yeah.
But before we started this today, I had never done it back then. I just always heard about it. But I was too lazy to be like, oh, let me play the end of this track and play the beginning of this track. And I could not hear it.
I don't think it works as well. I don't think it works as well as people were hyping it out to be.
Yeah, because the Helplessness Blues basically ends on vocal notes. And Crack Up begins mostly with vocal notes. But they're in a different key. At least that's what I noticed today.
Well, I also noticed that, like... Yeah, no, I agree with you. I noticed that... God, what was that syncing up to? You're definitely right. They're in a different key. They're not synchronized at all, really. I did think it's interesting that Crack Up ends with somebody running away inside and closing a door.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this album, man, this is my album of the year for 2017.
I cannot remember what my 2017 album of the year was. I really can't.
I believe it. Like this.
It might have been Primus. It
very well could have been. Because 2017 was kind of all over the place. Like, a lot of people I liked put out great albums, but a lot of people I liked put out albums that kind of burned me at the same time. You know?
Yeah, see, I don't even know if I had Cradle of Filth on there. Which, I don't think I've ever put Cradle of Filth on a best of list.
I don't think you have either.
But
Maybe
I was by the time
the best
Huh?
albums of like the 90s.
Yeah, like by the time Cryptoriana came out in 2017, I was burnt the fuck out on Cradle of Filth because I sat there and said, I'm going to review every single Cradle of Filth release. EPs in all.
That was an odyssey for you.
It really was, man. It really was. It was really just fun having a reason to finish off their collection.
Yeah. But yeah, so this album does a lot of stuff that I absolutely love.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this album throws a massive dose of prog influences into the mix.
Yeah. And see, I was expecting a lot more prog in Helplessness Blues by the way he was talking. And it's in there slightly, but man, you're right. This one really fucking doubles down on perfectionism.
Like this one, there are two big long songs that are credited as multi-part. Because you have I Am All That I Need, which I mentioned, and then you have 3rd of May / O Daigahara, I guess.
Yeah,
that's how
like,
you say that. But even then, a bunch of other tracks do that thing too. Like On Another Ocean does it. Fool's Errand kind of does that.
Yeah, like they all have, like every song just about has multiple parts.
Like the closest that they really come to like one part songs are probably, if you need to, Keep Time on Me, I Should See Memphis. America Stoppa doesn't really change much. It changes a little bit at the very end. But man, this album, what I love about this album is that this is a very moody album.
Yeah.
But like you wouldn't necessarily even know that if you weren't paying attention to the lyrics.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a dark album. It's just, it's an album that takes you on a journey. It's almost like the existential night of the soul or something.
Yeah. And one thing that grabbed my attention is there's a song or two where he's not using heavy reverb on his vocals.
Yeah.
And you can actually just hear his voice, which is a welcome change, and it's interesting to hear his voice, but at the same time I'm like, oh, I'll turn the reverb back on. I want that echoiness. I like that in there.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of cool stuff going on here. Like when I was looking at those credits, I was amazed there's synthesizers on here because I've never heard them.
Yeah, like I said, like
in 3 years I've never heard them.
There's like slight electric things happening, but like you said, like it is so buried deep under everything that it's hard to notice. Like it'll be like a little bitty sequence for a measure or two during some of the quiet parts of a song.
It reminds me of like we were talking about when we did that Tom Waits retrospective. Or no, we didn't get to cover this in the Tom Waits retrospective. When I was reading up on Mule Variations, there's like sampling and record scratches on Mule Variations. But I never knew they were there until I read that.
Speaking of which, I don't know if I was able to tell you or not, but I did find the original copy of Real Gone.
Oh, good. You did tell me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a risk because I was like, damn, everything on it was identical to the remaster that I have. And I was like, fuck it, it's Goodwill, it's in pristine condition, it's $2, and if it's the same one, I'll just give it to Zach. And when I got home, I realized, oh shit, the lettering on the front cover of the remaster is protruding. The remaster is flat, while the original, the lettering is protruding. And I popped it in, boom. Times are different on the songs and shit. And yeah, it's a different experience.
Man, we gotta do that Tom Waits' Worst to Best we talked about.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's a lot of crazy shit. Like, this is a very dense mix.
Yeah, see, this is an album that when it came out, I wasn't smoking weed anymore. And this is an album that is like, when I start smoking weed again,
yeah.
You're there.
Making up for lost time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, I totally can understand that. I've never done that with this album, but, like, it's one of those where it's like, I can imagine. Because, like, like I said, they really draw, like, it's a very different production sound.
Yeah. It's weird that this is, it very much sounds like Fleet Foxes, but there's enough stuff happening in the production and the instrumentation that to some people they'd be like, oh, it just sounds like Fleet Foxes. But, I mean, there's a lot of subtle differences.
Yeah, there are. And it's like, I'm kind of glad they didn't go with the, like, reverby 2011 production for this.
Yeah.
Because it's like, with the music being as dense as it is, I don't know that it would have worked that well.
Yeah, I mean, because you still get the echoey vocals on many of the tracks. It's just not as heavy on the reverb as the first two are. And yeah, I like that a lot. And like I said, I like that there's a couple songs where it's just him and there's not really any harmonies or reverb, and you just hear his actual voice as it is. But at the same time, I do like it better with the harmonies, and I do like his voice better with the reverb. It just brings a bigger dynamic, man. But the thing is, like we were just saying, this album is big.
Oh yeah, it's
to the point where it would have probably just been too much.
Definitely, like it's one where it's like, when you, like, the vinyl is 2 discs. The vinyl's for both vinyls. The vinyl for both Helplessness Blues and Crack Up are 2 discs.
Yeah, you know what, though?
A pet peeve of mine to an extent.
It annoys me.
But, like, with Crack Up, I can almost, it's almost like I'll allow it.
It almost
it is
annoys
such a
me.
big album with so much happening.
Yeah, because
it's like, I'll allow it.
Yeah, because, like, there's some records that I have of modern albums where I'm like, did you really have to double disc this motherfucker? Did you have to make this 180 grams? Like, I mean, because like with Daft Punk's their Discovery album, I have that on vinyl, and it's 2 discs, and it's like there's 3 tracks aside, and it annoys the piss out of me.
Well, that one at least is like an hour plus long, and like you can't do hour longs on 1 disc without massively compromising the quality.
Yeah, seriously.
Like Todd Rundgren was doing that shit in the 70s, and his album that did that came with a note inside the album that said, this album has audio quality is not the greatest. You should probably tape record this and listen to that, because the vinyl is a little on the frail side because we had to cram 67 minutes into it.
Oh my god.
but yeah, like it's a pet peeve of mine too. Like you'll get stuff like Gorillaz is kind of like that too, you know.
Yeah.
The first Gorillaz is kind of like that too, which is especially obnoxious to me because they don't even throw on Dracula and Left Hand Suzuki method onto the vinyl.
Yeah.
But they put on the Ed Case refix of Clint Eastwood, and it's like, really, y'all?
Yeah, it's like, you put this bullshit on here, but you left off Dracula, which is like one of my favorite tracks.
It's like, why?
Because no other version of Clint Eastwood holds a candle to the original.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. But this album, Crack Up, this one, I really like just about every track on here.
Yeah, I remember the first single when it dropped, the 3rd of May and / whatever that word is. Man, I was fucking hyped. And I listened to it, and I was... At the same time, I was like, oh man, this is amazing. And then, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, I totally get that.
Because I'm like, man, it had me hyped, but then it also had me weary. I was like, damn, it's been 6 fucking years, and I don't know what this is supposed to be. And it's one of them things where... in the context of the album, the song is much better than it was as a single.
Yeah, definitely. Like this is one of those albums where like I feel bad for like the people who had to like choose the singles.
Yeah, just fucking A.
Because it's like there is no track on here that works as a single.
Yeah, exactly. And I just love the fact that they chose the longest fucking song.
Yeah, the almost 9 minutes.
Like, oh, fuck it. What can we use? Oh, fuck it. 3rd of May.
Yeah, and it's like the whole album just flows together amazingly, and it takes you on this journey. And what I forgot to say about the first 2 albums is that what I love about the Fleet Foxes' first 4 albums, really, I don't know what they're going to do with this 5th album that's apparently going to come out next year or the year after that, is it's almost like a journey. You know, the first one, you're in the woods, you're playing with the fairies and the bears in the deep woods of the Pacific Northwest. And then the second one, it's like you're traveling down 19th century dirt roads and through little agricultural towns, and you're having the journey. Yeah. And then Crack Up, it's like you've made it to the coast. You're standing on the hills overlooking the ocean, and the thing about the ocean is that the ocean is beautiful, but the ocean is also absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
Because the ocean is probably, and this is a very strange metaphor to make, the ocean is probably the closest thing we as tiny little human beings can actually get to looking at like an elder god.
Yeah.
Because the ocean is vast, the ocean is incomprehensibly huge, and the ocean cares not one single damn about whether we live or die or exist or anything.
Yeah, it fucks with me. If I'm at the beach and I'm chilling and I stare out into the ocean, like, anxiety hits me and I start feeling small and tiny, and it fucks with my brain if I stare out into the ocean just realizing that I am nothing.
Crack Up is like that, like the lyrical themes of Crack Up are like that distilled.
I totally feel that. I totally feel that vibe, and it makes the album cover a lot better to me.
It does, and it makes the next album even more interesting, because it's like when you get to, you know, Crack Up is such a journey, and when you get through it, and you get past I Should See, like this album has one of the greatest like ending bunches of tracks of any album I've listened to. Like when you get through Fool's On Another Ocean and Fool's Errand and I Should See Memphis, and you get to the Crack Up title track, and you get that cool acoustic intro, and then he does that there's that lyric of I can see you've cracked like a china plate.
Yeah.
And it just gets huge.
Yeah, and it just builds. That's another thing I love about this album is it builds, because there's some real quiet parts.
Yeah, there are.
But
this album does dynamics great.
Yeah, because when it does the quiet parts, you're listening, and then man, the builds come, and it's quite the opposite of my main complaint with the final cut from Pink Floyd, where that album has no idea what the fuck when it wants to be quiet and then get real loud, and this one knows how to do that. This one,
I like the final cut, but like that is you're dead on that is such a problem with the final cut.
Yeah, you gotta keep your hand on the remote the whole time, dude.
Yeah, you do, because Roger Waters will be like, Maggie, what have you done? And then literally the next verse will be like, the dream!
Seriously. And it's like, so you're constantly turning it up for the quiet parts, and then boom, it gets fucking loud, you're turning it back down. This knows how to do it because it eases into the quiet parts, and then it eases back into the loud parts, and man, this is another one of those sonically pleasing albums.
And like when like I was saying, like when you get to the title track and it does that huge it's like massed harmonies of Robin for like a minute or so. And that's like such a massive cathartic moment. But what I like is that it gets weird again.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the horn sections and the weird, like, poetic what the fuck at the end of the album.
Yeah, that's the thing I like about this album is, what's crazy is, if the second album kept all the great things about the first one and then wasn't afraid to get a little weird, this one kept all the shit that I loved about the second one, did some new things, and when this one gets weird, it gets fucking weird.
Yeah, it gets really weird. Like I was saying, the poetic whatever at the end of the title track is like, as far as I can tell, he's just literally laying out what that F. Scott Fitzgerald piece was talking about. And it's weird and it's strange and I don't fully understand it, but like I get the emotion in the music.
Yeah.
And what I love about the way that this one segues into the next album is it's like he stood on the hills overlooking the ocean. He felt that shit we were talking about, and then he was like, okay, I'm over that now. I'm going to go play on the beach. But yeah, this album, straight up 10. Straight up 10, another one for me.
Yeah.
So how do you rate this, Travis?
Yeah, this is another 10. Hell, I think I gave it a 10 back then when I did my little review. But yeah, it's a straight up 10. It's one of those albums that, man, that was a long fucking 6 years, and it made the wait worth it. And you can also hear why it took so long. I mean, everything is just so... everything sounds meticulously planned and placed at the right moment. And sonically, it sounds amazing. And it does enough different to...
yeah, it does.
To be as unpredictable as Helplessness Blues was, while also retaining the core factors that I like about their music. And
yeah, definitely.
And after this, I wasn't expecting another album. 3 years is a long time, but pretty quick when you compare that 6-year wait between Helplessness Blues and Crack Up. But see, the thing is when Shore dropped, I had no idea they were even ready to release anything. The last I heard was a while back that they were working on a follow-up. And at that time I was like, well, we'll see it in 2025.
That's kind of where I was, because like I was following it more like intently, because like I followed Robin on his Instagram, because he will like demo stuff on his Instagram stories.
Oh, okay.
Like he was sharing pretty big chunks of this album in the year leading up to its release, like interspersed with like random stuff. He was talking about like shopping carts at the grocery store and stuff like that. But like I distinctly remember, I think it was about 5 or 6 months ago, it might not even have been that long ago, hearing it's the penultimate track on Shore. It's the part of Cradling Mother, Cradling Woman where the music like breaks down and you get like that up and down section with the horns, and there's that solo vocal bit. I remember him playing that on his Instagram story in like July or August, and being like, damn, this new Fleet Foxes album's going to sound good in 2025 when we get it. Because I was like you. I mean, I knew he was working on it, but I kind of thought it was, especially after COVID hit.
Yeah.
I knew it might come out this year before COVID hit, but then I was like, we're probably not going to see this until this shit is over.
Yeah. So it tripped me out. What, about a month or so ago, you had texted me saying, "Oh man, the new Fleet Foxes is great," and I was like, "What? Song or album?"
Huh?
I was like, "Song or album?" You're like, "Full fucking album, man." I'm like, "Oh my god."
Because literally that same thing happened to me like an hour earlier. Somebody I knew was like, "Yo, John, have you heard the new Fleet Foxes?" I'm like, "The new single?" And they were like, "No, man, they dropped the whole album." I was like, "Holy shit, I have to go listen to this right now." And I did.
Hell yeah.
And that was like one of the craziest album drops ever for me, because it was like I had no idea this was coming out. I was expecting the new Sufjan Stevens in the next, because it came out like, I think it was like 3 or 4 days before the new Sufjan Stevens.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm expecting the Sufjan Stevens, and then it was like, holy shit, new Fleet Foxes? And like, I'm not going to lie to you, it was like kind of an emotional moment the first listen through. Because it was like, I have anticipated this for so long. Have you ever seen that one Tyler, the Creator tweet? You've probably seen it in memes where it's like, unfollow me, holy shit, I've wanted this for years, unfollow me right now, this is all I'm going to talk about for weeks. That was me when this album dropped. But yeah, it came out of nowhere, and like stylistically, aspects of it came out of nowhere too.
Yeah.
Like if I had to describe, if you have not heard Shore yet, I would probably describe it as the simplest point of reference is it's like a cross between Crack Up and the first album.
Yeah. Easily.
Because it keeps that difficulty from Crack Up, and it keeps, well, maybe not the inaccessibility, but it keeps the complexity from Crack Up, and it keeps the weird experimental moments, but it uses them in service of writing shorter pop songs, basically.
Yeah.
Or not necessarily pop songs, but closer to pop.
Yeah, mostly in like a standard kind of structure.
Yeah.
Because that was the first thing I noticed when I listened to this album was it's real easy to listen to.
Yes.
And
Well, the first thing I noticed was that, holy wow, he opens the album with somebody else's vocals.
Yeah, that tripped me out, man.
I was like, whoa.
It was like, good on you for,
sharing the stage.
Yeah. Because, and yeah, I'm reading what you said a minute ago, that he worked on the album. Where did I see that? Damn it. Yeah, it was made by Peck and Old without the other members of the band.
I think from what I had read was that they were supposed to be on it, but when COVID hit, he basically wasn't able to get them, is what I heard. Because he started recording in September of last year.
God.
And I get the sense that the band gets together to record after he's worked up the material for the most part.
Yeah.
And I believe I've heard that his plan of how to deal with this, or how to deal with the aftermath of or not even the aftermath of this. I've heard somewhere, and I don't quote me on this because I don't know if this is how accurate this is. I've heard that he plans to, assuming this is all over by next year, he assumes he's planning to get together with the rest of the band and work on an album where they'll contribute material too.
Yeah, see, that'd be cool.
Is what I've heard, which will be really interesting because from what I've heard, the band haven't really ever contributed music. They've just helped with arrangements.
Yeah. See, I can figure that because he's always kind of seemed like the soul brains.
Yeah, like. So yeah, this album has a ton of session musicians on it. Like I said, including, I believe, one of the drummers from Grizzly Bear.
Yeah, the drummer from Grizzly Bear. I was just looking at that. Christopher Bear. His name would be Bear. But yeah, man, the moment I turned this album on, like you said, different vocalist at the beginning, and the moment it starts, it already tells you this is going to be different. Because you get drums. The drum arrangements on this album are very much more on the standard rock vibes as opposed to the beat. I'm going to beat on a drum around the fire.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because this album is a lot heavier on the rock side of things. Like, it's not rock because I don't think Fleet Foxes are capable of rocking, but
yeah,
it was reminding me a lot of classic 60s folk rock stuff like the Byrds.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not so much in the music, but in some of the guitar arrangements.
Yeah, it's like the drums are used in a more traditional sense as opposed to a classical sense that they were used on the previous albums, which adds an interesting new dynamic to their sound. And there's even maybe a slight funkiness to some of the tracks. Like it's obviously not funk music, but there's some groove to some of these songs that is not really heard on previous Fleet Fox albums.
Oh yeah, I will definitely agree with that. There is a slight groove to a lot of these tracks, and that was something I noticed on first listen to.
And a lot of catchiness, a lot of catchy kind of hooks and stuff. This is a very different damn beast.
And there was a little bit of that grooviness on Crack Up.
Mm-hmm.
Like something like Merkastapa, very much maintaining a low-key groove throughout the whole song, you know. But that was a track or two. Like, this is like a lot of this album has a grooviness to it.
Yeah. And then 15 fucking tracks, dude.
Yeah.
When the other ones are barely hitting like 11.
Yeah. Like, Crack Up, I think, was 11. I think Helplessness Blues was 11, too. Let me check. That was 12.
Damn.
And then the first one was 11, too. And then there's like we were talking about, like there's not bluesiness on those first two albums. I mean, it is just one track, but like on the chorus parts of Maestranza, there's like straight up blues guitar elements.
Yeah.
Like there's like a Delta blues almost soloing in the choruses.
Yeah.
In the back, but it's in the background of the mix, which I think is cool.
Like, would you say this album is a little less Baroque?
It's weird because it's like it's less, but it's more.
Yeah.
Like it's not as Baroque as the first album, but it's more Baroque than Crack Up and Helplessness Blues.
Yeah.
Because Crack Up and Helplessness Blues was more like spare and folksy and a little more progressive, and then Crack Up was like we are doing prog folk. We are straight up doing folk prog. We're going to cram in a mellotron and a synthesizer and train samples. And
yeah, the door is an instrument.
Yeah, my feet running out of the studio are an instrument.
It's like he had listened to Adam Hartmother.
Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's less than the first album, but more than the last two, is how I would describe it. It was interesting because I was reading the press releases and he was talking about how like during the height of the lockdown, he was going a little bit stir crazy. So
yeah.
he would get into his car and go on these road trips into I think it was upstate New York. And when I read that, I was like, I mean, first off, I was like, I didn't go into upstate New York, but I was doing that during the quarantine where it was like, okay, I have to get out of the house. Let's go drive for a while.
Yeah, let's...
And secondly, I can hear that. Like, this album very much feels like it's structured for, like, a road trip.
I totally get that vibe. Like, it's a good driving album. It's a very good driving album. Like I told you, I was working for the census when this came out. It was winding down, but I was working for the census, and there's particularly in our area where it's pretty rural. You have to do a lot of driving. When you're doing the census, and this album was perfect. Like it was the perfect album for that moment in time. Dude, I feel you.
And and he even said that like this album was probably going to be a little bit lighter anyway.
Yeah, and he was even saying that right before Crack Up came out.
He was saying that, but like he said after this drop that like he was going to do it anyway, but like after COVID, it was like we really can't do a dark album right now.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe why he released it like he did too. Is because like it's been interesting to watch like Todd in the Shadows is a dude I watch semi regularly, and he has just been kind of spinning his wheels this year because like he's had nothing to work with. Because all these big pop dudes they're just not releasing shit because it's not doing well. Because the charts aren't working the way they normally do because people aren't buying stuff.
Yeah.
So a lot of like big name artists just have not released stuff. Like even like people who don't necessarily need the like pop money. Like I've heard it rumored, and of course we don't even know how far along the project was. I've heard it rumored that Kendrick Lamar was going to release a new album this year that got shelved because of COVID.
Damn.
But of course, like I was saying, who knows if that was even finished? Like, some of these people might not have even finished their albums before COVID hit.
And it's crazy that a lot of the popular artists have just kind of shut down, but a lot of the more underground people are using this time to crank shit out. Like, Ministry is in the studio, and you know, Gorillaz with their Song Machine project.
Sufjan Stevens, Flaming Lips.
Yeah.
Like Fiona Apple. Like it's. I was joking to somebody. It's like, damn, like the hot new acts of today didn't cope with COVID very well. But this is like a bonanza for people who are into music that was popular 15 years ago.
Yeah. Seriously. I mean, certain artists, man, like, and a lot of them, man, have put out some of the best shit I've ever heard, like Igor and Imperial Triumphant. Fucking Batushka just put out a really good EP. Bully.
I mean, like, that Fiona Apple was one of her best.
Man, that Fiona Apple album is so fucking good. Oh my.
And the Flaming Lips, like, it's not their best album, but like it's what they need to be doing right now.
Yeah,
like,
that's a great fucking album. We were gonna review it last month, but Zach was like, "Oh man, I just haven't heard enough of it, and I really don't have much to say yet." And we were like, "All right, we'll put it off." But man, Bully put out a fantastic fucking album. Just a lot.
We got two amazing ambient Nine Inch Nails albums.
Yeah, man, fucking Ghost 5 and 6 for free.
Seriously. Because it's like it's funny, like I was saying, because it's like, and then Eels are dropping a new album at the end of this month.
Yeah, and earlier this year, hell, right at the beginning of the shutdowns, pretty much, Fish went ahead and just dropped their new album.
Yeah.
And
I forgot about that.
It's the best fucking Fish album in ages.
I've got to listen to the post-comeback Fish albums someday, because you say that every time a new Fish album drops.
I damn sure do, man. Goddamn, because when their first comeback album was kind of but then Fuego was really
Joy
good.
Joy or Fuego was the
Joy.
first?
Joy was the first comeback, but then Fuego, much better than Joy, and then Big Boat, much better than fucking Fuego, but then this is probably one of the few modern Fish studio albums where the songs, in a studio sense, really capture their live spontaneity. Like, it's kind of incredible.
Even like I love some old '90s Fish, but like, and we should definitely do a retro of them someday.
Hell yeah!
But like, even in the '90s, in the studio, Fish only sometimes captured that spontaneity.
Yeah, and
I like those albums, like Rift and Hoist and Story of the Ghost.
Yeah.
You know, even parts of Billy Breeze are some great shit. But like, they didn't capture that live sound. Like,
definitely, because I mean, Hoist, to me, has some of their best songs.
Yeah, like Hoist to me is like the best. It's the best like song Fish album, song-oriented Fish album.
Definitely.
Like,
whereas
it has Sample in a Jar, that sort of thing.
Yeah, Wolfman's Brother, fucking
exactly. Like it works as one of those albums in a way that like Billy Breathes does not.
Yeah, I like about half of Billy Breathes, and really from there on out, I like about, until we get like Story of the Ghost, I like about half of what's on everything after that.
Yeah, Story of the Ghost is weird to me because it's like it's that era of Fish, like that was a decline. Like what is the name of that album? Round Room, Farmhouse, whatever the other one is around that time, those last couple albums before it undermined, those last 3 or 4 albums before they broke up, they're not very good. And Billy Breathes is like half and half, but Story of the Ghost is amazing.
Yeah, man.
And I don't know what happened. Like, how did they pull this out of their hat?
Seriously.
When everything around it is just kind of okay.
Seriously. Because the new one, what I appreciate about the new one is the fact that it just jams, man. It fucking... there's barely a song that's under like 7 minutes. And each song goes into extended jam parts and stuff. And really some of the best studio stuff they've done probably since like Nectar and Lawn Boy.
Yeah, I'll have to give it a listen. Like I said, I haven't really listened to any of the post-comeback Fish albums.
Yeah, because Big Boat's fun. Like the post-comeback Fish albums, they're just fun albums. Fun little dad rock albums. But fucking back on
Fleet Foxes,
yeah,
we are actually supposed to be talking about.
This album cover, something I wanted to say, it looks like if we are standing in front of those rocks on the last album cover, now we're standing on the rocks.
Yes.
And we're just taking a picture of the ocean. I like how this album's cover kind of just reflects the last album's cover.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I made the joke about, like, this is like, at the end of Crack Up, he just walks down he finds a path and he walks down to the beach.
Yeah, and just stays there. He's like, I'm not ready to leave the beach yet. I'm gonna stay at this beach for about 3 years.
Yeah.
But another thing about this album is, it's so hard to say, man. But I love Can I Believe You and Jara.
Yeah.
Featherweight. The whole album all the way through is really, really good. Going to the Sun Road. Fucking love what's happening on here.
I will say, like, it's one of those albums, and it's funny because Robin was actually talking about this on bit a while back about like he was talking about the track in the middle of the album that you always skip, and it's a good track on its own, but it doesn't quite work in the flow of the album. And it was funny that he was talking about this because that's kind of how I feel about Young Man's Game.
Yeah.
Because that one to me it's like I like Young Man's Game, but like it kind of messes with the flow of the album to me. Because it comes after
Mestranza.
Yeah, it comes after for a week or two, and then Mestranza, or however you say that, which is really one of the most interesting songs on the album.
Yeah. Because
of what I was talking about with like the grooviness and then the slight blues guitar and the solo, and the choruses. And then on the other hand, you have I'm Not My Season, which is really cool. And then you have really the last, like, 5 or so tracks, which are great. But Young Man's Game kind of breaks it up for me. And it's a little too cheery, maybe.
Yeah.
Like it's maybe that one time that it's the smile is just a little too wide, and the colors are just a little bit too bright for me.
Yeah, I can definitely feel that.
But the rest of the album is amazing.
Yeah, it's a nice surprise.
Like Going to the Sun Road, I love the harpsichord on that. Or at least that's what it sounds like. There's a really fun... Like, I love that there are motifs from Crack Up that are on this album.
You know, I thought so.
Like, they do the main thing of... It's weird because I've talked about this a couple times. The main thing of Maricastapa, of the dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
They do that a couple times on here. Like they incorporate that progression into songs, which is I didn't notice until just now.
And another thing I love about this album is the abundance of horns throughout the whole thing.
Yes.
It brings on a whole nother dynamic that I'm not used to in a lot of Fleet Foxes, whereas the horns were always kind of felt like they were there to be weird, and now the horns feel like they're more of a part of everything.
Yeah, like that's a really good way to put it, because there are a lot of horns on Crack Up, but like they're used to be like avant-garde.
Yeah.
And almost like I was saying, like free jazz and weird and slightly threatening.
Yeah.
Whereas here, like they're just part of the vibe, and it's like it's a summery vibe, and it's like, you know, it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day about how, you know, like I said, that Sufjan Stevens dropped. And
who is that guy? You've mentioned him a ton of times, and I've never heard of that guy.
He's an indie dude who was huge about 15 years ago. Like he dropped a bunch of really big albums in the 2000s, and he's a big part of why I suspect, like Pitchfork really pushed him. Most of those indie rags really pushed him. I kind of think he's probably a big part of why bands like Fleet Foxes got so big in the first place. Is because he had a folk vibe, but he had like a really maximalist folk vibe. Like he had horns and banjos and tons of bells and whistles, and he would have tracks that almost sounded like a little proggy on his albums. And his albums would be like an hour and a half long. Like it was crazy stuff. And he is this gay Christian singer-songwriter. I don't know if he's ever confirmed that he's gay, but like everybody knows. And like he's not like overtly Christian, but it's there. Like it's in the background if you go looking for it.
Huh.
And a lot of his shit is really, really depressing. In the last decade, he's kind of been all over the place. Like his 2010 album was super electronic, and then he did a very spare folk album about the death of his mother. Huh. But he just dropped an album this year, and I would check it out. I would give it a listen. It's very interesting. It's very electronic. It's kind of like the one he did 10 years ago, but a little simpler. It's heavier on the loops, heavier on the droniness, and like sort of a hypnotic effect. But what I was going to say, it's an interesting comparison, because like Fleet Foxes are like happy, and it's like we're gonna make, everybody's gonna make it this time. We're all gonna be okay. And you listen to that Sufjan, and it's like, holy shit, Sufjan Stevens is depressed about the state of the world.
Yeah.
Like the ending bit, there is a 12-minute track where one of the main lyrical repeated bits is, "I'm ashamed to admit that I no longer believe." And it's like, damn, is he talking about God or is he talking about America? Or is it both?
Oh my god.
But it's funny because it's like two completely different vibes from two albums I was looking forward to this year. And the Gorillaz come out and are kind of like, hey man, we're chilling out with Beck.
We got Robert Smith, y'all.
Yeah.
We got Elton John this time. Speaking of the Elton John track, I haven't heard it yet.
It is way better than his track with Lady Gaga.
And see, man, my brother said that the fucking Elton John track sucks. And I was like, damn, so we really got two Elton John features this year that suck?
I mean, like, Elton John's voice in 2020 is like... He's an old man now.
Yeah.
He's not going to be able to do the vocal stuff he did in the 70s, but, like, he is so auto-tuned on that Lady Gaga track.
Yeah.
That you barely even know it's him.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. Which, it sucks because the music on that track I really like.
I like Chromatica. Like, it's definitely, like, a solid, like, third best Lady Gaga.
Dude.
To me. Because, like, I like it more than Joanne.
Yeah.
But, like, by the same token, I hate to say I have some of those same complaints I do with art pop, where it's like, I hate to say it, it's almost Lady Gaga ruining a really good neo house album.
Yeah.
I
was so hyped when I heard Stupid Love. Because I absolutely love that fucking song.
Oh yeah, that was great.
The rest of that album, for it to just sound like a standard ass 90s house album, I appreciated that. But after our review and listening to it again just a few times, I was like, this is just not what I was wanting.
Yeah, pretty much.
I wanted more Stupid Love, damn it.
That's kind of how I felt too. Like, it's, man.
I hate to say that Stupid Love is the best track on the album and the worst representation of what that album is.
Seriously, like, I love all these Fleet Foxes fans who haven't been turned off by this point are probably like, why are these guys talking about Lady Gaga?
Yeah, seriously, what the fuck? You guys are listening to, like, indie royalty, and then you go to talk about Lady Gaga?
Yeah.
How dare you? How dare you bring up Lady Gaga in the presence of Fleet Foxes?
Oh, that's a collab that does not need to happen. I feel like that would be like about half a decade ago now, when Miley Cyrus was doing all that shit with Flaming Lips.
Which I wish she'd go back. Because the best shit she's ever done was with the Lips.
Miley Cyrus is one of those people, and this is not a very nice thing to say, because realistically most of us lack talent in one way or another.
Yeah.
Miley Cyrus is somebody who clearly has more ambition and more appreciation for art than she does talent.
Yeah.
Every Miley Cyrus project I have heard after Bangers, she is trying to be more than what she is, but she just cannot do it.
Yeah, she can't bring it.
She can't. And I feel like with Lady Gaga, we've talked about this before. Lady Gaga is the most frustrating woman in pop, because Lady Gaga could have been this incredible thing, but she just sort of decided she was going to be a regular old pop. She kind of just decided she was going to be Madonna for the 2010s.
Yeah, which is like, damn it, you know you're better than this.
Like, you were better than this. You were better than Madonna. Like, and I'll stand by that. If she wanted to be, if Lady Gaga really wanted to be, she could be better than Madonna. Like, but she doesn't really seem to want to be, so.
Because what's so fucking funny is everybody's like, you know, oh, she's just being Madonna of this generation. Funny fucking thing is I've picked up a few Madonna albums this year, and her album, Confessions on a Dance Floor, sounds like it wants to be a Lady Gaga album so fucking bad.
Oh, when did that come out?
Like mid-2000s, like good 2006, 2007 has to be.
Oh God, I don't fuck with Madonna after Ray of Light.
And dude, that Ray of Light is great, but I don't think anything is as good as
awesome.
Her Dick Tracy album.
I think Music is the last one I've heard fully, and like everything I have heard from American Life is just like, why?
Yeah, just put it down, girl.
You have made your money, Madge. You can retire. Let it go. Let the dream go. But yeah, I really like this new Fleet Foxes album. Like, I don't know whether it's going to be an album of the year, but it's a strong contender.
Yeah, I'm gonna do my best of albums differently this year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like 10 albums and a couple
honorable mentions.
Yeah, it's gonna be every new album that I heard this year.
Oh, wow.
And some that I haven't even reviewed, because there's a ton of albums that have come out this year that we haven't reviewed that I want to talk about. And
I hate that, like, we both have, like, I mean, you've done a better job than I have, but like we've both like kind of been slow to upload this year.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, I have so much time on my hand, or I had so much time on my hands in the spring. It's like, why didn't I just upload everything?
Right.
Like, why didn't I take advantage of this?
'Cause, you know, I bought that new Dixie Chicks album, and I have some things to say about it.
Huh. Positive or negative?
Mostly negative.
Yeah, I figured.
'Cause, I don't know.
I never liked them that much.
Neither have I.
I just feel bad about the fact that they basically lost their career over saying that George Bush was bad.
Yeah.
Like,
because the only reason I bought the new Dixie Chicks is because several months ago I was at Goodwill and they had like all their fucking albums, and I'm like, fuck it, you know, it's $2 a piece. I'll fucking.
Oh man.
They got a couple songs I do like, but
the Goodwill almost got me one of the last times.
Yeah.
You know, they almost got me good because I saw a copy of "See You on the Other Side" by Korn, and I was like, "It's a piece of shit," but for $1.
Yeah.
For $1, and then I looked inside and there was no CD, so I was like, okay, the universe was trying to tell me something there.
That's gotta be one of the most interesting and worst Korn albums ever made.
Yeah, like I was listening to them not long ago actually, because I did find Korn 3 for $1, and I
Doesn't
bought
that start off pretty decent?
Korn 3 is kind of like you guys. I think one of you said the last time you talked about them. It's the closest they have come to doing those first two albums again.
Yeah.
But but it has that predictability.
Yeah.
That creeps in after Untouchables, where every song has a chorus. And, Korn will be doing their weird, crazy groove metal shit, and then Jonathan Davis will bust into a chorus.
Yeah.
And it's like, it throws me off. And also the guitarist wasn't there, so...
Yeah, without Head being there, and... that predictability, man, it annoys me so much.
It's not a bad album. Like, I haven't heard the new one. You guys said it was the best they've done in years.
I like that one a lot.
It's probably the best one I've heard after Issues.
Yeah.
Like,
that's how I feel about it.
That's not a high bar to clear.
Seriously.
That's not a high bar to clear. I've been thinking about it. The reason I picked this up is occasionally, once in a while, I still like to do those sort of old style meme review where you just make fun of an album for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, their dubstep album would be perfect for that.
Yeah.
Because dubstep is in and of itself kind of funny now. Because it's like, we are 10 years removed. You can go into a Goodwill and find Skrillex albums for 50 cents.
Yeah.
Nobody wants this stuff.
Like, talking about dubstep, how about Bass Nectar drops one of his best albums in a while, and then, boom, straight up Me Too'd like a motherfucker.
Who is that?
Bass Nectar.
Oh, I didn't even hear about that, really?
Yeah, see, like, I didn't hear about it until after I bought the album. I posted it on... I posted it on Instagram, and one guy commented on there saying, oh yeah, it is a great album. It's a damn shame. And I'm like, what's he mean it's a damn shame? What, is it a damn shame that the album's good? Like, what the fuck? So, I just type in Bass Nectar News, boom, Me Too'd hardcore, down to like recorded audio of hit, and not Me Too'd as in just sexual conduct. Nah, Me Too'd as in fucking with underage girls and shit.
Yeah, like that weird shit.
Yeah, like, dude, really, you could get.
I mean, like, there are certain scenes where, like, I expect it, like just about any given emo pop punk band, roughly 60% of those dudes are pedos. Like,
oh, God.
like you name a pop punk emo band from the 2000s, there's like a 2 in 3 chance that one of the members has an allegation against him.
Yeah, like blood on the dance floor.
Oh, God. At least they aren't relevant anymore.
But yeah, so I was like, damn, my boy got Me Too'd. Right after dropping a big... Hell, they tried to Me Too Maynard a couple years ago, right before the release of the Perfect Circle comeback album.
Yeah, I've been hearing about some of that shit for years. Like, it was never big news until Me Too, but like, there's been allegations against Maynard for years, and it's like, there are some. This is a really weird turn for this podcast to take. There are some artists who skate by because their audiences don't care.
Yeah.
Like, and like, that sounds horrible, but there's a lot of truth to it. Like Marilyn Manson has, I don't know if he has, Twiggy definitely has accusations. Marilyn Manson, I think Evan Rachel Wood accused him of some dodgy shit after they divorced. But I was reading about that, and I don't know if I've ever said it to you, but I've said it to other people. After that Twiggy shit came out, I remember saying, anybody who has ever read Long Hard Road Out of Hell knows that Manson got rid of Twiggy as fast as he did because he knew there was some dirt on him hidden somewhere.
Yeah.
Because he all but admits to some, like, weird, really weird shit in Long Hard Road Out of Hell.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember that book super well, but I remember, like, there, like, he like, was like, yeah, we did some weird shit with some groupies.
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing about the deaf lady, and just, damn, that's a weird book.
A lot of the stuff that is on that legendary original version of Smells Like Children.
Yeah. Now, which version is that?
Apparently, the original version of that album had a lot of uncleared samples, and if I am remembering correctly, they had this thing they would do with groupies where they would get groupies and have them confess some of the most fucked up shit they did, and a lot of that made it on the original version. And they were told they couldn't release it like that because of the uncleared samples. So when they were retooling the album, apparently promo copies got sent out, and those are some of the most sought after Marilyn Manson rarities.
I was gonna say, there's already some really fucking weird shit on Smells Like Children in its normal state.
Yeah.
Like there's already like a conversation between like a medical hotline and somebody having a stroke. Not to mention just whatever the hell fuck Frankie is.
Love it. So fuck Frankie. Fuck Frankie.
God. But yeah, like I didn't know that about Bass Nectar. Like I probably read it, but I forgot about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I mean, it is interesting. Like the Me Too stuff hasn't, like, there aren't a lot of like '90s dudes who have been like caught up in it. Like it's mostly like 2000s guys and earlier. Like there aren't a whole lot of '90s big acts who have gotten Me Too'd. Like,
yeah, not yet.
Like Billy Corgan is probably the closest thing, but like Billy Corgan has been a known lunatic for many years, long predating Me Too. Billy Corgan has been going on Infowars and saying insane shit for like almost a couple decades at this point. Like talking about shadow people and like. Man, what I don't know. Like a friend of mine put it this way, and I kind of agree. It's like I don't know what happened to Billy Corgan, but like back in the day, he seemed like fairly down to earth and normal. But like,
then it happened.
But yeah, how do you rate this Fleet Foxes album?
Man, this album, since it's still kind of fresh on my mind. My rating might change, and maybe it won't, but I wanna give it a 10. Because I like everything that I've heard. I've probably only listened to this album 3 or 4 times, and that's not because I don't like the album, but that's mostly because here recently I've just been listening to like some more heavily aggressive shit.
Yeah, you were saying you were in a metal mood lately.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot more black metal, like newer black metal bands. Like, highly recommend checking out Alphaville from, goddamn Imperial Triumphant, because it's like black metal by way of John Zorn. And it is, like the song Excelsior with this wild, dissonant, fucking walking bass line. I mean, this is a black metal album with more jazz drums than blast beats. Like, it's pretty phenomenal shit.
Yeah.
And then, like, Igor. I've been playing a lot of Igor. Igor is the closest thing to like a new kind of Mr. Bungle. It'll be classical music, and then it'll be beat music, and then it'll be black metal, and then there'll be like chickens. Pretty wild shit. So like jumping on to something as lush and beautiful as Fleet Foxes is very jarring after listening to all this kind of shit for the past like month and a half.
I can imagine.
And
I forget that Mr. Bungle have that new thing coming out.
Yeah, I am looking. I got both versions pre-ordered. The standard CD and the deluxe. But
yeah,
enough,
it's like I've said to you before. It's like I wish they would release some new stuff, but like I'm just glad they're back together.
yeah, I would much rather new shit, but I like all the musicians who are a part of it. And I like the fact that it's like, oh, you know, nobody's really heard our original demo, so let's just re-record that. And not gonna lie, I've heard 2 songs, and they're just really good metal songs. And I'm like...
Yeah, it's just really good thrash metal.
Yeah, and I'm like, damn it, Mike, like, you're such a phenomenal singer that I hope you're not just screaming on this album.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I'd understand it. If the whole album was just thrash and heavy metal, I'd understand it, because it was the demo. It's before the self-titled album. It's before disco, you know.
Yeah.
It's even before his time with Faith No More. So, there's
this is like 1986 Mr. Bungle.
Yeah, and I just hope it opens the floodgates for them to, you know, write something new that's wacky.
That's
hoping
pretty
to hear
much how I feel too.
Yeah, I'm hoping to fucking hear some wackiness on this album, but I'm expecting there to not be much wackiness.
Yeah, definitely. See, I'm gonna go a little bit lower. I'm gonna rate this a 9.
Yeah, because I want to give it a 10, but I'm going 9 right now.
Because that's what I rated the first album, and this is, like I said, this is kind of the closest to the first album. Like it's one of those. It's like Fleet Foxes are not one of those bands. Like it's like with St. Vincent. I was talking about St. Vincent earlier. I finally picked up her first album after like 3 or 4 years. I don't know why I didn't pick it up in the beginning when I was getting into her, because it sounds like my favorite stuff from her. And like I came to the kind of depressing conclusion. I was like, damn, the first 3 albums are like the best stuff, and like the last 2 albums I still like. I still think they're great albums, but I don't like them as much as those first 3. But like that's not the case with Fleet Foxes. It's like you have really good beginning, really good current part of the discography, and like amazing stuff in the middle. It's kind of where I'm at with them.
Yeah. Because it's not amazing, but like I said, it's jarring for me to go from one extreme to a real lush and beautiful sound without easing myself into it.
Yeah, I get that.
But being a fan of the band, I like it. I like it a lot. But yeah, definitely a 9.
Yeah.
Hope the CD version comes out in February, like it says.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Because I've got that pre-ordered, and
yeah, I'm gonna pre-order that soon too. Man, it's another one where it's like I've been looking into trying to check out more Eels, and it's like they have a way bigger discography than I thought they did.
Yeah, they're one of them bands that they're one of those bands that's a lot of shit. Like, because there's bands I want to jump into, like Beck. I want to get more Beck, but it's like, fuck, man, there's so much. Eels. I've still only have Beautiful Freak, and it's like, fuck, they got so much. Meat Puppets, but damn, they got so much. And Butthole Surfers, damn, there's a lot of it.
But hey man, Eels have a new one coming out in literally, I think, like 3 days.
Oh,
so
sweet. I need to jump on that.
So if you want that could be a point. The funny thing is, like, I listened to the demo, not the demo. I listened to the singles, and it's like, damn, E sounds pretty much exactly the same. He just sounds a little more depressed. Like,
Yeah. All right, give me a second. The dryer people are here. All right, so the dryer people are here. Man, it was fucked. Our air conditioner went out 2 weeks ago and had to get a whole new air conditioning system. And then the very next day, after the air went down, the fucking dryer quit. So we had to get a brand new dryer. Yo, can you hear me? But anyway, I guess let's go ahead and end the podcast real quick.
nice.
All right, but that's all I got to say about damn
Yeah.
fucking Fleet Foxes.
Yeah, I have to agree with that, you know. I will say before we end, just very quickly, how would you rank their albums?
As in best to last,
Well, let's go worst to first.
worst to first. Hell. Discarding the EP,
Yeah.
it would be number 4 is the self-titled, and I'm at a loss where I want to put this new one. So since the new one hasn't impacted me in any kind of way yet, right now it's the self-titled album, the new one, Helplessness Blues, and my favorite would still be Crack Up.
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna do it the same. I'm gonna go. To be honest with you, like, I don't really know yet. I'm gonna put Shore at the bottom tentatively. It could rise, but tentatively, I'm gonna put Shore at the bottom. Then the first one, because I have a lot of nostalgia for the first one.
Yeah.
And then Helplessness Blues, and then Crack Up. So it's just about the same.
Definitely.
Very, very solid band, though.
Yeah, like
if you have not listened to them and you somehow have made it through a almost 3-hour podcast on them, and all of the trials, tribulations, and wrong turns we've made along the way, I highly recommend this band to you.
Yeah, highly recommend checking them out. Like I said, they're highly underrated. It doesn't seem like a whole lot of people talk about them. At least, the only people that know about them is, you know, my circle, because I won't shut up about them, and then you and whoever you tell, you know.
Yeah.
I've never.
Well, a lot of people in my circles know about them, so that's good. And not just through me.
Sweet. But shit, we will see you guys on the next fucking podcast.
Yes, indeed.